What is going on, guys? This is All Gaming with my review of Tokyo Ghoul Episode 6. And this episode, it was actually pretty good. I definitely enjoyed it, but my one downside is with that censorship, because that right there was definitely annoying. I really hate how they censor some things, because sometimes they do go a bit overboard, and this right here is a perfect example of that. Now, I cannot wait for this series, to come out on Blu-ray or DVD, because obviously those right there will be uncensored, and then I can really enjoy this series, in the proper way. Because to be honest, I can't stand censorship, because sometimes they can ruin the series, and this right here, it did hurt the episode a little bit, but that right there, it did not take away from my overall enjoyment of the episode. But the episode itself, it picks off from last week where we see Touka. Of course, now she took a bite from Kaneki, and she's now powered up. She can also use her Kagune, and we see now that Shu here, he is definitely pretty excited for this, because obviously, he already knew that Touka was weak, and now seeing her at full strength, especially, after what she did, taking a bite out of his meal like that, obviously he is definitely not pleased. But we see that when they do start fighting, Touka here, she already has the upper hand. This girl right here, she is definitely not be messed with, and Touka is obviously my favorite character in the series so far. So seeing her going in there and doing work like that, I cannot help but applaud, because to be honest, I cannot stand Shu. Even though he is being voiced by one of my favorite actors out there, I just don't like the character. So I was glad to see that he was, like getting owned by Touka, because that right there, it was some good stuff. And so because he's struggling, we see now that he has set his sights on Kimi, because obviously he also wanted power up as well, because there was no way that he could beat Touka in his condition, especially like seeing how he could power from Kaneki, who's a ghoul. But we saw now that when he was running to Kimi, to take a bite out of her, we saw that Nishiki, he actually found the will to actually make his body move, and he stopped Shu, but grabbed onto his tie, and no matter how many times Shu was hitting him, Nishiki was not letting him go. And that right there, I had nothing but respect for Nishio now, because the way that he fought for Kimi, and not only this episode but the last one as well, it's how can you not like this guy? Because like I said, I knew from the trailer I would like him, and after last week I definitely did. So pretty much all that happened in episode 2, I pretty much forgave. Right now I pretty much forgive him from that. But we see now that Touka here, she actually uses one of her powers from her Kagune, because we saw that her wing, it became crystallized, and she was able to shoot those, and you just saw the way that it had messed up Shu. So that right there, it was definitely awesome. But then we also have her rushing in there, and she pretty much cut Shu from part of the right side of his face, or the left side, and she also cut off one of his arms. And so obviously that right there, it would take a while to heal, but this guy, even though he was so hurt, he was still trying to take a bite out of Kaneki. But luckily, Touka, she ended that right there by finally putting him down for good. So pretty much Shu was done for a while. He definitely might not be dead, but at least that right there, we did not have to worry about him for a while now, which is definitely good. But now we see that even though they saved the day, and you have Nishiki, going to Kimi so that he can free her, we see now that Touka, she actually pulled this very cold-hearted move, because I thought that maybe we'll get this happy ending, but Touka here actually wanted to kill Kimi, and it was because she was too much of she was too big of a risk, because she already knew about Nishiki, and she also knew about Kaneki, and now obviously she knew about her, so Touka couldn't have that. And we see now that Nishio, even though he was so hurt, he was still protecting her, and I definitely could tell that that they reused the same scene of Touka's Kaneki crystallizing, but we saw that Nishio was sacrificing his own body to protect her from those crystal blood particles, I guess you could say. And so after that, we have Touka because like Nishio, he was like definitely out for her. We have Touka, slowly and slowly moving toward Kimmy, but when she got too close, Kimmy here had called her beautiful, and obviously, like that right there had really messed with her psyche, and it caused Touka to retreat. And I forgot, beforehand we have Kaneki asking her if that right there was her friend, Yoriko. Probably not saying her name right, but Kaneki was asking her if that was Yoriko right there, and she'd be able to kill her. And obviously, that right there definitely hit her nerve with Touka. But after she had left, we find her on the roof, and she's like sulking because that right there, it really got to her. But now we go back, I believe like 2 days later or something, we actually learned that like Nishio, he's now working at the cafe because he's now joining them, because they were here, it's a lot better than like killing people for him and for Kimmy, and this also will allow him to protect her more. So it was definitely nice to see him, working there. That right there was definitely, a nice change of pace. But we also have Hide as well, who was there, and the interaction between him and between Hide and Nishio, that right there was like some funny stuff. But we also learned that like Touka, she's kind of like been depressed, like in a very depressing mood ever since Kimmy called her beautiful. And I was wondering, like why did that bother so much? Like why would that bother her so much? Because I didn't think that like Touka would be the kind of girl to consider herself ugly or a monster like that. But we see now, like throughout the episode, she's kind of like getting better, and like hopefully, her mood will improve, like very quickly, because Touka is my favorite character. I don't want to see her drop off, like not really getting any screen time because she's so depressed. I want her to bounce back from this and and appear again. But then we go to Hinami and her mother. They were like arguing at first, and we have Hinami, running off. But then we have Kaneki, going to her mom, and they were like talking for a minute. And then we like cut to her husband because like Hinami misses him and want to see him, and so right now they're like both kind of suffering because they're like missing the most important man in their life. But we see now that the guy that her husband was like working for, it was actually Jason, or what was the real name, like Yamari, something like that. But this guy was like obviously bad news. But apparently, not only is this guy a doctor, but he can also make tools, because we saw him make like some kind of wrench, I believe, for Jason. I will call him Jason because that right there is it's like easier to go on than his real name. So after he made this like tool for Jason, we see now that like that the doctor, he was trying to get Jason not to show up, because obviously it definitely wasn't good for this guy who is a big fish in a 13th ward to come here to this one. It just start causing trouble. But we see now that like Jason here, even though this guy was like working for him, Jason had no problem hurting him, because apparently Jason thinks that this guy is nothing more than a tool that got like too close to humans. So now we see that when the doctor was like holding a picture of his family, you have Jason hurting him, and you just see the blood, like covering most of the picture. And so now we go to afterwards, where we have Hinami's mother. She now wants to go to Hinami to cheer her up and also spoil her, because if her mother doesn't do it, then nobody will. And so when you go to the door, like it's like obviously locked, but we have her mother, trying to talk to her, and Hinami here, I'm not gonna lie, she was being a straight up brat, because she had told her mother that like she hates her. But obviously, after she had calmed down and those two were talking, we got like this pretty nice, loving family moment between them. So that was definitely nice. But then we go back to her husband. We just see him getting like thrown like through this wall, and we see now that those doves, they're now there, and we see that they recognize Jason right away. So obviously they know what this guy looked like. And so now we see this fight. It is definitely going to break out, and we see now that they pull out these weapons that are very similar to a Ghoul's Kagune. And so we see that the creeper guy, Mado, his weapon, it was kind of like I'm not really sure how to describe it, but it was like definitely weird. It was definitely unique. But the other guy, he had this kind of like a mallet, I guess you could say. And we see now that like Jason, I see why this guy is a big name, because he was definitely, holding his own. And even when it seemed like these two were kind of like getting close to even hurting him, we see now that like Jason brought out his own Kagune and he actually destroyed their weapons. So even though the weapons can be used to hurt ghouls, it doesn't mean that it always works, because Jason here, he was actually able to destroy one of them, and he even said that like he was only going to entertain them for like 2 minutes, and we saw now that when those minutes was up, he actually just left. But then we have the doctor here, and he brought out his own Kagune, which actually looked like a tail to me. I'm not really sure why he would like that, but we see now that when he brought his out, he actually tried to attack them, which was stupid, because not only was he hurt, but he's obviously like a lot weaker, and so these guys easily, they had like decapitated him, and this guy is now dead for good. And so we go back to Hinami and her mother, and when they were like making up, we see now that like these two were hoping to see, like their like Hinami was hoping to see her father soon, while the mother was hoping to see her husband soon, because this guy, he was like definitely at some pretty bad stuff back before he met them, but once he met his wife and had his daughter, he got out of that for them. And so we see now that like he was trying to change his life, but they sadly had pulled him back in. And so we see now that like I believe it was after these two, those doves, after they had found a way to like draw some more ghouls, because we see that his doctor, he had left way too many clues around to show that he was connected to more people. We see now that they were coming up with like some kind of strategy to like lure them out. But then we go to Hinami and her mother. They were like looking forward to seeing him, and we also go to Kaneki, who like watched him at one point, but then he went to the Touka's room because because he wanted to talk to her. And at first it was about tomorrow's shift, which she like passed on, because like I said, Touka right now it is like the depressing mood, so she is not going to work. But at least Kaneki, he did the right thing. And he did apologize, for like bringing up a friend back then, because he did not know much about them. So that right there, he really had no right to speak on. But at least he manned it up, and he did apologize for that. But then we see him go back to Hinami and her mother, because he is still teaching Hinami some words. Like I believe the word that like he taught her in his episode, it was a cloudburst. And so we see now that like after all this time these two have like spent together, Hinami had actually learned every word in that book, and that book, it was actually kind of big, so that right there was impressive. And I also forgot that like her mother, she had also promised, to like get Hinami something, to like make it up to her for everything she's been through. And we see that what Hinami wanted, it was like to get a new book. And not only that, she also wanted to get her father a book, because his birthday was like coming up soon. So that birthday was like definitely nice and cute of her. But we see now that like when we are in the streets, we have these people, asking around, trying to get any clues that they can, about that doctor's family. And so we see now that after Hinami and her mother, after they had bought that book and they were like walking in the streets, we see that her mother, she had some very good eyes, because she had noticed, what was going on, and immediately, she started going to the other direction. But sadly, that right there, it did make her pretty suspicious, and we just see her now. I mean, we just see those men now following them. So eventually, like while they're walking, we have Hinami picking up on her father's scent. I'm guessing they had like that like picture with blood on him. I'm guessing Dilla had that around, because it pretty much led her to the doves. And so right away, I definitely knew that right there was not a good sign. But at least there was like one shine in this moment where we have Kaneki walking the street, but at the same time, I have no idea if it will be too late for him when he does realize, what's going on. But now we have now we have the doves here. They are pretty much planning to kill both of them. Even though Hinami is a child, they would probably kill her. But we have her mother here putting out her own Kagune, and she kind of like formed this like protective shell around them at first. But then we just have like this really beautiful moment, and it like definitely hit you in the feels because she was telling Hinami, to run away. And that right there, I definitely knew that would not be a good thing because that pretty much, just like affirm a death like for her mother. So now we have her mother taking out those men behind her because we saw that they had dodged, her Kagune, but at least we saw them fall. So that was a good thing. And now we have Hinami, like running through the streets, and she was like calling for like Kaneki and like Touka because obviously these two, they could do something and possibly save her mother. And so now it seems like when Kaneki was walking that he might have saw her, but at the same time I have a feeling that he didn't. Like it might be something else. So sadly enough, I do think that her mother is dead, but I am hoping that I am wrong about that. But I do wonder, like how long does it take for a Quinkoi? I'm probably not saying that right, but I do wonder how long does it take for those weapons, to repair? Because like that guy weapon was like pretty messed up, but we saw him have it on him, at the end of the episode, or maybe it could be a different one. I'm not really sure. But like I said, the episode overall, it was definitely good. I enjoyed it. So I'm probably going to give it an 8 out of 10. But of course, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. And as always, please do not forget to like the video and subscribe because that really helps me out. And you guys take it easy. And I will see you all next time.